Hey guys, Prometheus here with the Affinius Project. Wanted to put out a video, even though it's Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be a four-parter, and it's going to go over my financial essay from May 13th, 2013, titled Grand Finale, Here's What's About to Happen to You, an Economic Love Story of 50 Shades of Green. The reason that I wanted to go ahead and try to get this video out, even though it's a holiday weekend, was because of what happened in Japan last week. There's a little bit of a sense of urgency associated with this because of that crash that the Nikkei index suffered on the 23rd, which was 10 days after I posted my essay on Godlike Productions under the handle Saddle Tramp. I am Saddle Tramp on Godlike Productions, or I'm Prometheus on the Affinius Project. And also, if you have any questions, comments, information, or submissions, please contact me at affiniusproject at gmail.com. Or you can also contact me on Godlike Productions. Again, my handle on there is Saddle Tramp. So with the Japanese crisis that's unfolding right now in mind, I wanted to get this video out. It's going to be a four-part series. I'm going to post links that are specific to each part with each part. It'll have screenshots to articles that talk about what I'm talking about in the essay. I will also, once we get affinius.org up and running, I will also post the written format of that essay on affinius.org. So without further ado, we're going to get into part one of this here. Again, the title is The Grand Finale. Here's What's About to Happen to You, an Economic Love Story, or 50 Shades of Green. And I want to remind everybody, first things first, that I don't post timing predictions just offhand on financial matters. And the reason I try to stay away from the timing game as much as I can is because it can always change. Through unforeseen circumstances, financial moves by central banks, they can change the timing of this by months, if not years. They keep their plans fluid, so they have all the time in the world. But that being said, the reason I feel kind of confident about posting this rough sketch of the timing of this next big financial event is because I think it's already in motion. So let's go over the evidence that I've collected first, and that'll be part one. Here is the evidence of this financial crisis that's coming at us like a train in a tunnel. And this is a well-planned event. I don't want anybody. I think once you're done with this essay, I urge everybody to watch all four parts because it could save you a lot of heartache down the road. So I know it takes a while, but it's a big essay. But this will really be time well spent, I think, for you. So the evidence, I could go all the way back to the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank in 1913, bring you forward to the point we're at now. But most everybody that watches these videos is going to know about the Federal Reserve Act and the subsequent things that happened. Bretton Woods, World War II, Nixon removing us from the gold standard, things like that. So if you have any question with regards to those long past financial events and how they relate to this current situation, I'll try to address those. But just email me those questions or private message me on Godlike, and we'll discuss that. But for the purposes of brevity, I'm going to stick to the recent financial news and how it relates to the coming economic event. And but also understand as I do this that all of those past moves that I'm not discussing from 1913 to now, they're still a big part of this equation. So keep them in mind as we move forward. Most of what I'm going to talk about is from 2010 to the present, and the first thing I want to talk about is capital controls. And the reason capital controls are so important is because capital controls are the last gasp of a dying empire, a dying currency, a dying country. Historically, when a country instituted capital controls, it's because their economy, their currency was failing. And the reason that these capital controls are kind of odd and unique for the United States is because if you took a snapshot of where we're at, the United States looks like it's in good shape. Money is flowing into the United States from around the world, into our stock market, into our commodity markets, derivatives. It would look like capital controls were the last thing that were needed in the United States if you just took a snapshot right now. But I think when you look at where we're going in the future, you can see why these capital controls are important to the powers that be. In 2010, the first one I'll talk about is the new $100 bill, because in 2010 they began printing this new series of $100 bills. And I'll provide links and screenshots, but you can also just Google the new $100 bill and you'll get all the information you need. But here's the funny part. They've been printing that now for 3 years, but they haven't circulated any of it. They've just been printing it. Pallet load after pallet load after pallet load, and they're just storing it. And nobody could understand why. They've never really offered a good explanation as to why. But they just printed it and stored it. So that sort of led to an actual cash control, capital control, currency capital control in and of itself, because there's just not much paper currency, United States paper currency, floating around out there right now. Also in 2011, Congress enacted this real hefty surtax, a 30% surtax on money leaving the country and going to places like Belize or Cayman Islands or any other favorite spots for expatriates. And those capital controls went into effect at the beginning of 2012. And during this time, they're still pulling all these worn and torn $100 bills out of the system at record rates, and pulling down the actual amount of United States currency on the world market. So much so that there's been lawsuits filed against the United States because we can't supply enough paper currency to foreign banks for their exchange processes. So at the same time we were pulling down our paper currency, we've been flooding the world with electronically generated dollars. So the bottom line, though, of all of this is that during the last 3 years, capital controls have been stealthily put into place and made fully functional in the United States of America. And this for a country that doesn't really look like it would need those capital controls. So it makes a person wonder, it's a big clue, why are they doing that? Because they always have a reason that they do something. And a lot of times that reason doesn't become apparent until after it happens. So what I'm trying to do in here is to put all this together ahead of time to give some people a heads up so that they can save something. And an interesting side note on capital controls, they have announced a release date for the new $100 bill, but it's not until October of 2013. And they can change that at will if they want to, but that's a kind of a curious time. I mean, why not just announce a release? Because usually when they announce circulation, they just do it within 30 days. But here they are waiting almost 7 months to put this out there. It's kind of strange, 6 months. So keep that date in mind as we move along. Also, in this 2010 to present time frame, we've had a lot of new financial regulations put into place in the United States of America. In 2010, the United States passed the Dodd-Frank Financial Reform Act, and very similar, eerily similar regulations were passed by England, the European Union, and Canada, Australia. a lot of other developed countries, most other developed countries, matter of fact. And despite all the consumer protection hoopla surrounding these financial reforms, they're really not consumer friendly at all. And in point of fact, they're the opposite. Because essentially what these regulations have done is they're going to totally change the nature of the banking relationship. You're no longer going to be a depositor at your financial institution. You're now going to be an unsecured creditor of your bank. And I know it doesn't seem like much of a change until you put it all together with the way they've changed the method by which they reorganize these banks when they default. In the past, with regards to your FDIC insured deposits at banks, if you had more money on deposit that was covered by the FDIC insurance, you might not get all of that money back. And then that insured rate is 250,000 per entity right now. But say you had 300,000 on deposit, so you had $50,000 that wasn't covered by FDIC insurance. You might not get every penny of that back, but you were going to be the first in line to get your money back from liquidation of the other assets of the bank. Now, you're going to be moved all the way to the back of the line, the very back of the line. And any money over $250,000 is most likely going to be replaced with stock certificates in a worthless shell company that the FDIC organizes to hold all of the bank's bad assets in the post-default reorganization. We all saw test runs of this with MF Global and in Cyprus. And the test went pretty much according to plan, except with regards to Cyprus, that a lot of that money, that Russian mafia money, was allowed to flee the country through England, through branches of those banks in England. But those problems were fixed with some new banking regulations in the European Union regarding foreign branches of banks organized in another country. So a lot of people aren't aware, because the media has fallen down on the job and they haven't told people what Dodd-Frank did to them. So I wanted to make people aware of these financial regulations. And also with regards to financial regulation, another biggie is the Bank of International Settlements. They are sort of the central bank of the central banks, and they're located in Basel, Switzerland. And they've passed a new set of what they call Basel banking regulations. They began working on these again in 2010. And they're called Basel III. You can read up on Basel III if you want to, and I'll provide a link here to give you a good overview. But in a nutshell, what it does is it puts severe leverage restrictions and increased capital requirements on banks within that BIS structure. And that's virtually all the banks in the developed world. Now, since 2012, they were actually supposed to implement these regulations at the beginning of 2013, but the European Union and USA have been tinkering with the wording of these regulations since the last half of 2012. But the latest draft that they've come out with, they've reworded it, but they haven't changed anything. So it seems more like they're looking for the right time to implement them. And now it appears, from what I'm hearing from banking circles, old friends in banking circles, it looks like we're going to be here at the end of the second quarter, the beginning of the third quarter of 2013 is when they're going to implement these Basel III banking regs. And what that will mean is that during the third quarter or fourth quarter of 2013, you're probably going to begin to see a pullback of credit by the banks, not only to business but interbank lending. You could see some credit freezes begin to happen in the third quarter, fourth quarter 2013. And this could include, operating capital for large companies. And when you think about that third quarter, fourth quarter 2013, also remember the new circulation date for that $100 bill. And if you have any question about the power that these Basel banking regulations carry, remember Basel 2 and 2.5. These were called mark-to-market accounting, and the effect that they had on the housing market in the United States and America in 2008, because these weren't what caused the housing bubble, but they were most assuredly what popped that bubble. They were what caused that financial crisis. They led to the financial crisis. Now, the bubble, you could argue the bubble did that, but they were the pin that popped the bubble for sure. I'm going to move on to part two now, so please carry over with me, and I will see you on part two. Thank you.